Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And welcome. Let's start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could stand, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And just as a reminder, please silence your cell phones or put them on vibrate. And I'd like to open the meeting and have a roll call by Bob Winnery, our secretary.
Roll call of the Carlotta Resident Council. The first is the President, George Kempner.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
Down. Hey,
Now?
No.
No?
Is it on?
it's on.
Now? No.
I'll take over and do it. We're restricted this morning to, we cannot share microphones. So that's why we have a slight problem. So I'll do the introductions. As Bob already said, I'm George Kempner. I'm the president. The vice president, would you please stand up, Angela Fitch. And the treasurer, Wayne Schweifler. And the secretary, Bob Winnery. One of our members at large is Beverly Adair. Another member of large is Karen Dorr. Pat Niemeyer is being
Quarantine.
under quarantine, waiting for a test back. And let's see, Dick Abney is not present this morning. So let's go on and let's talk about the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, Bob.
Okay, I can yell.
Oh, can I have 5 minutes? Or
Go.
2 minutes, 3 minutes before you start?
Go ahead.
Thanks. I'm going to take care of the microphone. So you can share microphones. Okay, I was asked to come and explain a couple things about COVID and what's going on right now, kind of a state of where we are. There are, throughout the county, you all know, you've seen the reports about the rapid increase of COVID throughout. We'll start with a positive. Among the resident group, among the IL residents, there have only been 2 confirmed cases.
Ooh.
So that's a very positive thing. And I think that's a testament to how well you are abiding by the guidelines and following the rules and doing what you need to do. Well, get my good side, would you? I don't have one anymore. It looks like last week we may have hit kind of the spike. This week we've had a return of 4 new associates. Last week it was much higher than that. The department that's being hit the hardest right now is dietary and dining. But I've heard there's some very good-looking new waiters. Hush. And so we'll continue to help out that way. There's some confusion. The guidelines change rapidly, as you all know. So right now, there's 2 types of quarantine. There's isolation and there's quarantine. Isolation is for known positive cases. So if you are positive, you're put on isolation. And if you are exposed, you go into quarantine. Okay, so quarantine is an exposure. Exposure, by the truest definition right now from the CDC, is unprotected exposure greater than 15 minutes in a 24-hour period. So it could be one exposure that's 15 minutes or longer, or 3 exposures of 5 minutes, during a 24-hour period. And unprotected means without face coverings. That's why we're really pushing the face coverings right now. So your risks would be at dining, because you're without face coverings. Or if you're having a private gathering at somewhere without face coverings. Those kinds of things. So, be very cautious, be very careful about that. Whenever an associate is in your apartment working, like when the housekeeper is there or when maintenance comes in, things like that, you should wear a face covering. Even though it's your apartment, you should have a face covering on. And you should try to stay away from them as much as possible. All right? So if you get put into quarantine, if you go on quarantine because you had an exposure, a known exposure, you will be tested at day 2 and day 5 past the exposure. So if you got exposed today, we're not going to test you today because you won't have developed any antibodies. The test would be useless. But 2 days from now, we'll do a test, which will be the baseline test. And then 3 days after that, a second test. If both of those tests are negative, then you're free to resume normal activities. All right. If you are put on isolation because you had a positive test, you will stay in and locked behind doors for 10 days from the date of the test. Okay? Quick questions?
When they test you, if they find positive, do you get shots or do you get anything to try to cure it?
We would, no, there's really not if you're asymptomatic, you just weather it out for the 10 days. We would advise you to contact your physician. If you're positive, we tell you to call your physician, see how they want to handle your particular case. Okay?
Is there a question?
Yes, Karen?
What kind of tests are being taken now?
Yes, here.
If the question is what kind of tests are being used. We did a rapid antigen test last week where we went around and if we caught you at home, we did a rapid antigen test. That was in response to the high number of staff members that we had show up. So we wanted to do a quick testing with the rapid test. And so that was Helen and Wylon came around and caught you. If they caught you at home, they did it. If we didn't catch you, we didn't go hunting for you to redo it. We just wanted to get as many people done as we could. The rapid antigen test does not mean you don't have COVID if it comes back negative. It just means you don't have COVID right now. So the PCR test that we do, I know I'm getting questionable looks. The rapid test is not as sensitive of a test. It tests for antibodies, for antigen antibodies. So you have to have developed antibodies. So you could be exposed and not developing the antibodies yet. So we do that test, but we don't rely on those results. If it says positive, you're positive. A rapid test, if it says positive, you're definitely positive. If it says negative, it just means you're negative right now, but you could be positive the next day. So we don't use that as the litmus test for us. The PCR test, which is the one we send out to the laboratory, that is a more accurate test, and that's what we use the real results from. So if it says you're negative, you're negative. If you're positive, you're positive. So we do the PCR test for people that we know have had exposure or people that are symptomatic, have real symptoms. So we use that to rule out COVID. So does that answer your question? Okay.
I have one more question.
One more question.
Would you go through the details of what someone has to do to come visit us, the son or daughter, for example?
Yes. So visitation has been greatly restricted by the state of California. They base that on a year's worth of data. And in our type of setting, and I was surprised by this, because I would have said skilled nursing was the hardest hit as far as rapid spread and things like that. It was actually assisted living. Assisted living communities had more positive cases, less fatalities, but more cases. And so the state has said this is the most vulnerable population that we have. Skilled nursing, assisted living, things like that. So they really restricted the visitation guidelines to make it almost impossible to visit. And that was really because they knew how virulent and easily spread the Omicron variant is. And so in order to visit, a visitor has to be fully vaccinated. And fully vaccinated means have their booster as well as the 2 shots. So fully vaccinated and have a negative antigen test, which is the rapid test, within 24 hours, or a negative PCR test, which is the one that goes out to a lab, within 48 hours. So when people are coming, Donna has gotten really good at saying, show me your results, and they don't have results. She tells them what the process is, and they have to go and do it. The challenge is that the tests are not easily acquired right now. So, that's it. We're expecting this surge to go through the middle of February. So, whereas before with Delta and the other variants we had, it was kind of a gradual ramp up, and we saw that here too, where it started here and kind of went gradually up and then down, kind of like a mountain. This one's going like the Eiffel Tower, goes zoom, zoom. So we seem like we're maybe on this side of it now, going down, but it's still a real challenge. So we've implemented all the things that we know to do without locking everything down. We all want to avoid that. So what we're asking you is to limit your activities, limit your exposure, do the things that you know need to be done. Any other questions?
In the event someone is quarantined and they're not sure about exactly when they're out, who can they contact to find out if their test was negative?
I am, right now, what I was working on when you came to my office, I'm working on the line listing to determine when everybody has their testing and when they're free to go. I will be doing the contact. I will call and contact people with that. So we're just at a point now where some people that were exposed now can return to normal activity. So today I'll be making those calls. Alrighty? Yes, Karen?
How long should it be before you get an answer that you were negative? From the day you got the test?
Normally the tests are taking like 1 day to come back to us. So if we do a test today and we send it out, we get the results tomorrow evening around 6, 7 o'clock at night. So I'm not going to call you that day. So usually like 2 days after the test, you'll get the results. But we had a situation where we did widespread testing on the 13th, which was last Thursday, and sent three we call them pouches, 3 pouches of tests out. Each pouch holds about 100 tests. And we can tell when the lab receives them because they start adding them into their database. And all weekend long, from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, only 1 pouch was being populated. And I kept saying, what happened to the other 2? This is not all we sent. We sent about 300. There's only about 100 of them listed. Yesterday, the other 200 popped in. So they got delayed in transit somehow, and the lab didn't get them until yesterday. So it depends on really when the lab gets them. Usually it's within 1 day, 2 days, but this one took 4 days.
Where
So
is that lab?
it is in Seattle, Washington. Or Vancouver, somewhere up there.
That's the closest place?
What's that?
Is that the closest place, Seattle, Washington?
It's the most reliable one that we have. And they have been very good to work with. That's the same lab we've used the entire time. And their turnaround times have been much better than other labs that we use around the country with other watermarks. So we're very happy with them.
All the people that handle our food, in the kitchen and stuff, how often are they tested?
All the associates, every associate across the board gets tested twice per week. And so the other thing is all the associates are practicing source control, and we're watching it. The kitchen people you see are in those bright green masks, the little green duckbills. Those are N95 masks, so they provide a higher level of filtration. We put them in because, number one, the kitchen has had the highest, concentration of positive cases, and that's by nature of where they work. They're all close together in there all the time. So we wanted to do as much as we could to protect them from each other and to protect you from them. So they're all wearing N95s. What you don't see happening is each time they go into the kitchen, each time they go through the doors, they're using a special disinfectant that takes 45 seconds of contact time to kill coronavirus. So all the trays and stuff get sprayed down each time they go into the kitchen and wiped down. So it's a new disinfected tray that comes back out. And the associates are sanitizing their hands with alcohol-based rub each time they go in and out of there. Now, I will be the first to say that doesn't happen 100% of the time. It happens 100% of the time when I'm there. And I've told them more than once, underneath this mask, I'm not smiling. And we've been through it, you will do this. And they've gotten much better about it. So they're doing a lot in there to try and, amp up the protection as well.
I saw on the news that President Biden was sending out N95 masks to everybody in the United States. Is anything update on that?
We'll get them when CC's open.
Don't wait for it.
Yeah.
There is a website where President Biden is providing 4 antigen tests per person, and you can order online, no cost, no shipping, no insurance involved, starting tomorrow. But good luck with that.
What's the website?
Yeah, I expect the website will be
It'll
crashing.
crash.
10 seconds.
And I've got it at home.
Okay.
So, any of you can have a PCR test done at any time. So all you have to do is request it. We will do the testing. Now, I don't recommend you have one done every day. And, once a week would be sufficient if you think you've had some sort of exposure. We can talk about doing it more often. But as long as you're following the rules and you're doing what you can to protect yourself and you haven't had known exposure, I would say get a test if it makes you feel better, but, unless you don't think you really need one, don't do one. So.
How do we request
What
that?
does PCR mean?
PCR is the lab test.
What does it mean?
It's the one where we go into your mid-turbinate, the one that Wylan and
Nasal swab.
the nasal. It's a little higher up in the nasal, but it's not the one that goes to the back of your brain.
What does the initials PCR mean?
You know?
How do we request a quick test if we want one?
If you want, you call the front desk. Donna will arrange it for you if you want the PCR test. Do you know what PCR stands for?
The what?
What does PCR stand for?
I used to know.
We both used to know. So it's I can find out for you, but it's the lab test. It's the name of the lab test. It's a PCR test. Something reactive. So
Who do we contact here? We say, okay, now I want a test.
you call the front desk. Call Donna is the best. If you want to get a test, call the front desk and we'll set it up for you. Okay? You've seen the blue, there's a little blue tent outside by CC's. That's our mobile testing site. We do routine testing there on Mondays and Thursdays. So you could just show up over there on Monday and Thursday and we can get the test done for you too. So. Well, the one out front is for visitors. So if you have a visitor who has not presented with a negative test, but they are fully vaccinated, they can visit outdoors. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So they're fully vaccinated, but they don't have access to a test. You can have outdoor visits. So that's what that tent is out there for. All right?
Is CC's opening this month? Like it was supposed to?
It's still the plan, but there have been a few bumps in the road. So it's going to, if it does when it opens, it's going to open very abbreviated, with abbreviated services. But I still want to work toward that goal. It might be grilled cheese and tuna fish, but that's what it's going to be. All right. It took a little bit more than 5 minutes, but thank you for the time and
Thank you.
soldier on. We will get
Now,
there.
let's, Ron, thank you on behalf of everyone here for your continued efforts to keeping us safe. I know we all appreciate it, and just continue doing, and we'll continue following.
It is my pleasure.
Thank you for coming in. To continue, before we have the minutes roll call, yes, ma'am.
PCR. It stands for polymerase chain reaction.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you, Galena. Thank you for your help.
You get an extra dessert tonight.
Before we continue, I'd also like to introduce a new resident, in fact, a very new resident. I see where his ambassador, Bill Huron, has brought him this morning. Charles Hanna, would you please stand and be recognized? Charles Hanna. Welcome, Charles. Glad to see you here, and thank you, Bill, for making sure he got here. Okay, let's continue with the minutes, Bob, please.
Okay, I'm just gonna talk loud because this doesn't seem to work, but I'm talking about the minutes of the last town hall meeting. They were put in everybody's box after the meeting, and they've been published, put on boards. So, because I wrote them, I think it's okay for me to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, raise your hand. Thank you. Minutes of that.
Thank you. Okay, now let's go to some open issues now. We'll have the treasurer's report. Wayne, would you please give us that?
Okay, as you can imagine, December was a very busy month for the treasurer. We started off with a balance of $78,251, and we expended a total of $62,845 and some change, of which $62,440 went toward the holiday gift program. We had a small income, mainly from some late donations of $703, and that left us with a balance of $1,109. And so there were only a couple other expenses, and those were for the library, for some books, and then we had paid in December for the recording device and the accessories. Chuck asked me to give you a little bit of insight as to a breakdown of how the wellness and the nursing area received the gifts. We had broken this down into two groups. Jenny Cunningham had the majority of the employees, and there were 31 checks written to that group. Laura Lee had 26, and it's a total of 57. And that is about 55% of the funds that were expended for the holiday gift program. And I hope that answers Chuck's question. Did you have any questions for me? Okay.
Thank you, Wayne. It's time to give the results of just a synopsis of the various committee reports. And because of the microphone issue again, I'm going to go over them with you. The Building and Grounds Committee, the regular scheduled meeting on January 11th was canceled by the chairman because 4 members would be absent. So there would not be a quorum to conduct any business. The next meeting will be March 8th. Pat Niemeyer's dining services meeting on January 7th. The committee surveyed the comments from residents that were collected, and after reading them, they were given to Ron, who was attending the meeting, and he will give them to Becky. The Special Events Committee, they had a very active meeting. They did the holiday employee holiday gift fund distribution, as Wayne stated, which was, again, very successful. There was also a Carlotta Cares in December, which was a quilt raffle that raised $200. There's an upcoming Alzheimer's lecture scheduled for January 26th. There's a Valentine's Day dinner, special dinner is planned for February 14th. And in February, Carlotta Cares, a candy collection to be donated to Meals on Wheels for Valentine's Day. And there was a discussion on bringing back the dinner theater. And it was noted that Douglas has experience in this field and offered to help. Bunko discussed moving the game to the auditorium to allow more space for players. Any questions on any of those committee meetings that we can answer for you? One other thing that's come to light, and is there a representative of the residents who have a desire to have the dress code changed in the dining room? Bill, would you come up here to the podium, please, and tell us all about that?
Take your chair. That wasn't good. I don't need a mic.
Well, we do. We need you to have a mic.
Oh, record. Good morning, I guess. That's all, you have to listen to Ron. We have to guess what's going to go on. George came out with a revised dining room. Where? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
George didn't, the resident council did.
the resident council came up with the meeting. And, well, you signed it, so I assume that was, okay. And
No, we didn't.
it was
Stick
revised.
to the facts of this, please. Forget what happened in the past because you don't have your facts correct. But just go and talk about what you have.
Don't tell me what I can say. Anyway, the committee, the council came up with a listing, and it was somewhat a revision, and it was done very nice. But they came up with the shorts, maybe Bermuda shorts would be okay. I've been in Bermuda, and they're not short, they're fairly long. A lot of the women here especially, I have to give credit to women, were unhappy. And Marie Temick, who I'm talking for her today, since she is one of those that is bound to her apartment until they get the results from the test back. And she put together a survey. And it surveyed all the people, well, almost all the people. The pandemic kind of doesn't help in going around getting to people, but she came up with the survey. She and some of her helpers talked to all the people here until they got a majority that said yes, and that means we had the majority before we talked to all the other people. And the majority has come up with a request that it be accepted by the residents here. And that basically keeps everything that's come out of the council in place except long pants at dinner time, period. And you residents, if you remember, you were asked, and the majority of the residents, before we even finished, we had the majority. So there were people who weren't even asked, but we had a majority already. And it's so difficult at this time getting to people that they voted yes. So I would like to see the council change the write-up to include long pants for dinner only. The rest of it, nobody has any argument for.
Thank you.
Any questions?
For men and women?
Oh, come on. If a woman want to wear long pants, I can.
You don't have to.
Yeah. Yes, Bill.
My question is this.
Yes.
The council, in January of 2020, formed a committee. That committee did a written test of both the casitas and the apartments of the information that you eventually got. It was overwhelmingly in favor of short pants. Overwhelmingly. I can give you the statistics because I have them with me.
That was
2 years later,
yeah.
why do we have to change it? Because somebody, let me tell you, I'm not finished. Because somebody complained, because somebody came in gym shorts, okay, which were prohibited. My question is this, how are you going to enforce it? Do you want to be the shorts police? The management won't enforce it. So tell me, how is it going to be enforced when I show up in shorts?
Are you finished?
Now I am.
The enforcement is the same as it's always been. It is not, I go way back where the people in the dining room, the help were asked to escort people out.
No.
No longer. Yeah, way back it was that way, yeah. I go back to when Molly was in the kitchen. And it was, and that was said she complained and she was right. They had no right to do that. It's up to the individuals there in the dining room to tell the people who don't wanna follow it that you would prefer that they leave. Period. I mean, we put these regulations together, then we ought to police them. There's no reason that you appoint somebody to spend their time doing that. That's not right. That's not right. But we have voted for this, and we should make sure that it happens. No other operation or request to enforce it should be made. That would be wrong. Yes.
You originally said only select people voted for it.
No, I didn't say, no, I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. I never got a call.
You didn't listen to me.
Yeah, I did listen. You got a majority,
Right.
and then you stopped. Okay? I'm saying if you're going to change it, put it for a vote, like we did.
All right, we'll put it for, I
Like
don't.
we did originally, in writing, exactly what you want, showing how it's going to be enforced, and then put it out to everyone for a vote, before you go change something.
Yes.
I did,
Stand up, please.
okay. I was the one that went around the 500 casitas. And I didn't go to your house, because I know you always wear shorts. So I didn't go to your house.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells you you're probably a noble, when I
Exactly.
waste my time.
So it's
So I
not
did.
fair.
Well,
And
So you only went to the yes votes? Is
what?
that what you're telling us? You only went to the yes votes?
It says yes or no.
I don't know
Let
who
me
they
say
did.
something else too. I think peer pressure will enforce it. I mean, we're all gonna have dinner there, and if you see somebody in shorts, stare them down or something. Peer pressure is important.
I guess
I
I'm
think
never
it-
invited to the dining room anymore.
You have to go. I mean, everybody is welcome at the dining room as long as you dress properly.
Could we please have masks removed while they're speaking?
What?
Masks removed,
Oh.
please, while they're speaking.
You don't want to hear her repeat, do you? Okay.
I have a question.
Well, let me just answer the question on the floor. When we, due to the problems of getting to people, when we reached a majority of the people involved that live here, the majority of the people that live here, we said it's causing us a problem. By the way, Marie Temick, who unfortunately is tied up, was really behind it, so I have to give her credit.
Hold the mic up.
I'll have to give Marie Temick credit for the whole thing. And when they reached a majority, that was enough, but that's what we run by, majority rules. So,
In writing, please.
oh, gee.
It is.
No,
We had sheets of paper.
Yeah,
To everyone, please.
I got a question.
yeah, yes.
When you say that there was 168 residents that could vote, did you mean 168 units?
No, people.
They're actually,
They went through the directory where there was 2 people.
okay.
Count. Next question.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Just a clarification on the petition, because the rumors abound. And I've heard things that say, it only applies to dinner at 5 and 6, not 4, or it doesn't include July and August. And so could you
No.
clarify that as
The
well?
petition didn't mention either of those.
Huh?
The petition did not mention either of those.
Okay, I don't know where those came from.
Well, but that's not what the petition
Okay,
said.
thank you, that's just I need to clarify.
And, yes, Bill?
I happen to have the results of the survey that was done prior to the January 2020 meeting with me. I don't have the apartments because the committee member that had the apartments didn't have the information with her at the time. But I do have the proceedings. At that time, there were 39 people in favor, and there were 9 opposed. And that's the 5 and 600 casitas. Of course, a lot of them didn't vote. But that was, to me, that was overwhelming in the casitas.
I don't know where you got
The
this.
information was presented to the committee. The committee came up with the recommendation. The chairperson of the committee was Gwen Herron.
Oh.
And I voted no, and I was
No,
overwhelmed.
you didn't, you voted yes.
Well,
You
whatever.
voted yes.
I was the only one that voted
No, you
against.
weren't. The minutes are very clear, you voted yes. Keep your facts straight.
Well, I mean, if we want to nitpick this, as far as I'm concerned, we have a majority wants men to wear pants at dinner, period.
Put it to a written majority vote, now exceed.
Yes.
I have a letter from,
I'd like to make a motion, let's continue on with this. With the meeting.
Enough.
Anyone second that? We continue with the meeting and let this go. There's a
no,
second.
I want a decision. I brought it up here, and I'm giving you the facts.
We'll think about it.
We'll think about it. Thank you very much for your help.
Well,
Thank you.
I
Have a good day.
I don't like being walked out of here, and I don't think it's right because I want to give you.
No way following Robert's rules. That is wrong.
Do you hear that?
Yeah, it pertains to you.
Mike? Thank you very much. I'd like to continue with this, however, and go back in time and tell you what happened. Unfortunately, Ron just stepped out again. But back in November of 2019, December actually, we started talking about the dress code. And we being the resident council, which I was a member of at that time. And the reason we brought it up was that the dress code had been established 10 years previous to that. And what we felt was that if whatever the residents wanted now should become the dress code. So what we did the surveys that Bill Koenig has already described to you. However, prior to that, on the Weekly Chronicle of December 20th, 2019, Ron, the executive director, had already announced that the dining room, quote, the dining room dress code will be relaxed in one section on Wednesday, beginning January 2020, unquote. His goal, Ron's goal, was to accommodate as many residents as possible. Those that want to wear shorts, those that don't want, you can come either way to any of to the dining room. That's what predicated all this. And as Bill has already mentioned, the vote turned out to be very much in favor of allowing men to wear shorts. Now, let's jump to the present. I think the petition that the residents, have now done is legal. However, the resident council now has an option. And the option for us, after we meet to discuss this, could be to accept it, it could be to reject it, or most likely it will be to come up with a formal vote of all the residents. That's probably will be what will happen. And if the residents now, in their vote, want to eliminate shorts, that's what'll happen. However, I think that anyone, Bill or anyone else in here, who wants to write a dress code that maybe modifies what we have now, that includes shorts, so that that can also be on the ballot, that would be the right way of handling this. Any discussion on that?
Yes, I was there at that time. I was there at that time, and I know
What
what
time
happened.
are you talking about?
When the time you said Ron made the decision. I was there at that time, and Ron made a decision that was due to a couple of people that conned him into it, and you grabbed it, and you ran with it as a decision that was made. That was wrong. And let me tell you.
Again,
Oh,
hold it. The gentleman is standing right behind you, and he can answer your question. Ron, please clarify that.
Good. I'm gonna ask you
The rule follower. Okay. One I would like to say, I'm not easily conned. I think you all know that. And the conversation came about because there were a number of residents who requested that the dress code be relaxed. And we came up with what we thought at that time was a viable solution with, offering it on one part of the dining room, those kinds of things. Watermark's position is there is no dress code. We will not enforce a dress code. It is your home. You should be comfortable however you would like to be comfortable. So that is our position on a dress code. We have no horse in the race. We're not going to enforce a dress code. That will be up to you. The council can make recommendations for that, but that's what it is a recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay?
So that's the way we leave this. Now.
I would like to make a little response to that.
You may.
I was involved. Ron is right in the way he said it. To have the shorts allowed, and it was a small group, and they were used to make this thing come about. And all I'm saying is, forget the past. All I said is, we want to vote for it. So I couldn't get it out of here, so Marie Semick took over this, and she went to everybody and voted. And it's a majority. Now, if you want to go out and re-vote it again, I think it's necessary. That you want to reject this go around, then we'll have another vote. Period.
Okay, well, I would say this again, and I'm not a parliamentarian and I'm not part of the council, but Watermark will not enforce a dress code.
Well,
So
that's a given.
So you can make a recommendation, you can request that residents dress a certain way, but that cannot be enforced.
Well, let me tell you, Ron, the way this was done, there is no recommendation for outside people to enforce it. If the people in the dining room see that they want to have somebody taking care of it, it's up to the people that live here, period. And the last thing you want is an enforcement, which we had way back, and that got changed because it wasn't right. And it's up to the people here voted for it. They're qualified to ask the person.
Okay.
There's no force or anything, but it's.
Again, not trying to get into council business. Watermark will not enforce a dress code.
No problem.
We're in a unique time in everybody's life. I think that this is not where all our energies need to be focused at this time. So why don't we table it for a few months and revisit it and see if we come up with other viable solutions.
I'm for that.
Everybody?
All in favor of that, raise your hand.
Okay.
It is carried.
Thank
We
you.
tabled it for 2 months. Moving on.
I'd just like to make one comment. I'm new and I'm so naive that I would like to think that bringing up this problem will cause some voluntary changes that may solve the problem. If people think doing this will help our image in the dining room, so be it. But I would like to think that while we're in this transition, that we'll give it some thought and maybe it'll solve itself.
You're right, that's better than voting.
Okay, moving on. We always knew that this is a highly volatile subject, so I'm not surprised. But moving on, the council has been considering a change in the current constitution. We've been working on this now for 3 months? 3 months. There was a committee assigned to it. We're in the final stages now. It just so happens to address this very issue of a petition being submitted by the 10% of the residents, which certainly qualifies for what you've done. So once this all comes into effect and we revisited this in a couple of months, we'll bring it up, and if it comes up, a vote, a formal ballot vote will happen. That's where we're all with this. Are there any questions about any of the subjects or anything else that we'd like to attack this morning? Yes, Bob?
I had a question, George. Now, when we put this in effect, there's nothing about gender in that. Does this apply to women and men both?
Yes, sir.
I do not want to see a bunch of legs in the dining room. And I think some of these men that want to wear them, they should have a good look at their legs.
Thank you, Bob, for your comment. We won't look at each other's legs either. Anything else? Okay, I've got another resident slipped me a note and wanted me to bring this up. It goes like this, that during the Middle Ages, they celebrated the end of the plague with wine and orgies. Does anyone know if they have anything like that planned when this one ends? Everyone's for the wine and orgies. Maybe throw in some cheese, too. Thank you very much. Have a great day.